The Akai MPK Mini Play Mark III. First off, thank you very much, Akai, for sending one early to us. However, no money was exchanged, and also Akai has no influence as to what I'm going to say in this video. So, just a little disclaimer right there. I also own several Akai pieces. You know, I own the Live 2 and the MPC 1. I also have an MPK 249 that I don't really use anymore. I also have an MPK Mini right here that I can kind of give a little bit of perspective. So if the MPK Mini exists already, why would they release a Play or have a Play version? So if you don't know, the main difference is that there is a speaker in here and 128 Midi instruments. So for instance, this is a piano. And then, yeah, you can just go through harpsichord, clav, celeste, glockenspiel. And everything that you're hearing is from that speaker right there. So the audio quality, you know, I've got a microphone right above my head and you're hearing max volume off of this keyboard while I'm speaking naturally. So it kind of gives you somewhat of an idea of the volume. You know, it's not super loud, but it's not bad either. I mean, you could be sitting on the couch, have this on your lap and playing some keys, just coming up with some ideas. Yeah, which I think is nice. Also, you can see there's nothing plugged into it. So this is actually running off of batteries and it's AA batteries. I think it's 3 AA batteries. So that's kind of good and bad, you know. Good that you can always replace your batteries. Bad that you always have to replace AA batteries if you want to use this on a battery. I actually don't know how long it lasts specifically. So I'm assuming it's going to last a decent amount of time. You know, get a good like 20, 30, maybe more hours of playtime with those batteries. Hopefully. But I guess the real question is, would you actually use these sounds in a production? And if you're hooking it up to a DAW, you know, your DAW is most likely going to come with better sounds in general. In fact, this comes with MPC Beats, the software right there. So if you're looking for a DAW and a keyboard at the same time, like you would get access to MPC Beats to load up on the computer and then have access to this as well. So that's nice, you know? Also, the price, I think, is like 150 is what they're saying, which is more than the regular Mini. So keep that in mind. Like, you can get this guy for, I think, like 110, 120 or something like that. Maybe even less on sale. Whereas this, I believe, is going for 150. And again, it does have a speaker and does have a sound set in there for you to keep in mind. But they're pretty similar, except this is going to be more expensive. Also, there's no battery option for this guy. So this will always be plugged into a USB source in order to run it. And you would obviously be plugging this into, say, like an MPC or a laptop or a DAW or something like that to actually use the MIDI features in here. So yeah, back to the sound set. It's nothing special about the sound set. It's more of a convenience thing that you could actually just load this up and then start playing like a keyboard sound. In fact, where's the electric piano? To like load up electric piano, write some ideas, track it to a laptop or something, or a, you know, MPC, and then kind of go from there. I see that as a good use case. Also, if you have no hardware whatsoever, if you're like, you just have a laptop or something, you want to get into music, then I think the MPK Mini Play is actually a pretty good option. The reason I say that is when you're learning, you kind of just want to be able to play some keys, and having investing into a bigger setup, like, you know, bigger keyboard, it requires space. It's also harder to bring around. You're not exactly sure, like being able to put something like this onto a desk and have a laptop next to you and then just like learning stuff as you go is really cool, actually. And obviously you can plug in headphones right here for the sound, so you don't, you know, you don't have to use the speakers specifically. There's also a sustain port, which is pretty typical for keyboards. If you were to get a sustain pedal, you know, so you can hold out those chords. One thing that's interesting though is you do have a decent amount of control of the sounds in here. So for instance, you got filter, resonance, reverb, and chorus on there. And then if you hit knobs A, B, turns green, and then you have access to attack, release, EQ low, and EQ high. And these are things that are related to the sounds in the Mini Play. So for instance, the release, let's turn up the release. Also, it's a catch system. So like if you look at the attack, I'm twisting the attack. It's not adjusting the value until it hits the bottom, 0, and then I can adjust the attack. So now I can actually kind of make like a pad sound out of this. There we go. It's weird. That first note didn't do it correctly. Now the release, turn up the release. Say, maybe EQ out the high end a bit. Turn up the lows. So now let's click on knobs A, B, and then we have access to reverb and chorus. So let's turn up the reverb. So again, catch system, so pull it down to 15 and then pull it up. Same thing with the chorus. Now you can filter it. This speaker is like resonating against the body. You get the idea though. So there is some control over the sounds in this keyboard, which I think is pretty cool. And obviously these can be used for CC, MIDI CC type of stuff. And you do have pads as well. I haven't even talked about this, but these are nice pads. Like they do feel somewhat similar to the MPC. And actually, are they the same as these? I think they're a little bit different actually. You can see these are definitely more squarish. There's obviously more real estate for the pads on here, where these are more rectangular. I don't really mind that specifically because, you know, you're hitting the spot with the pads, unless you're playing super sloppy, in which case you might like the bigger pads. But overall, pretty similar. And also the keys as well. I believe the keys are basically the same on these. So not much difference on there. This comes in 4 different colors though. And also you have access to all 8 knobs right here instead of having to click a knobs A, B type of thing. For me personally, if you were looking at these two thinking, huh, should I get the Play or should I get the Mini? And you already have something like an MPC or a DAW setup that you're already using and you're pretty much always going to be having that plugged in, then it's a no-brainer. Obviously the Mini, because it's going to be cheaper and more functional for you with like more access to the knobs. But I mean, aside from that, they're extremely similar. I mean, like the modulation, pitch wheel, bend type of thing is exactly the same. So nothing different on there. Which, this thing, I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this joystick. I don't know. I'm used to a traditional modulation wheel. So it's a little bit different. I actually like that I'm thinking differently with this joystick. I'm gonna go back to a piano. I don't know, it is what it is. It's one of those things where after a while you could really get used to it, and then you could be like, oh, that's my jam actually. I really like that. But initially, if you're used to other keyboards, you might be like, joystick's a little weird. Also the placement's up here. Like I said, it's a preference thing. You might like it. Yeah, everything right now has been running off the AA batteries, which is great. If I just plug this in to the MPC that's next to me, upside down, there we go. And then I switch it to USB. Now you can see on the MPC that these are being lit up. And if I go over to MIDI port, MPK MIDI play. So as you can see, sending MIDI to the MIDI play and playing the sounds on here, if you even want to do that. So I do think that the market for this really is someone who is just getting into music that wants something that can still play sounds anywhere, because this is very backpackable. You know, you could easily throw this in your backpack and be on your way. And then you could just plug in headphones, which is really nice, and then be able to just noodle around, experiment with, you know, write some chords, work on some melodies. Like the sounds are not spectacular, but they're at least decent enough to get you going. So I really think it fits that bill fairly well. I think 150 is a bit on the pricey side in comparison to other options out there, but you got to remember that there's a speaker in there, and if the speaker and the MIDI sounds in there are really important to you, then I think it's a decent deal overall. But if you're already into some sort of ecosystem like a DAW or an MPC, then I really think the MPK minis or something along these lines are going to be a better option for you. You know, you got the Novation stuff. I don't have a launch key mini. I'd like to get one of those at some point because those do look really cool and they have more pads on them, so you could do more integration with Ableton Live, that type of stuff. I've also been a big fan of the Arturia Keystep. In fact, I have it right here. This has pretty much been my go-to MIDI keyboard for like 3 years at this point. I've used this a lot. The only issue I've had with the Keystep is my MIDI cable decided to stop working, so I had to get a new MIDI cable. In fact, the biggest thing about the Keystep is that you have way more output options. So you move this like so. If you look at these two, you'll notice that the Keystep is a little bit bigger, and I think there's a bit more give to these keys, although again, I've had this for 3 years, so it's kind of tough to tell. Also, you got this, you know, touch modulation type of thing, the touch bendies. Again, that's personal preference. You may or may not like that type of stuff. But this guy I've used with modular, with hardware, with Ableton. Like, it's been a workhorse for me. And I've really only needed the MIDI features on here. I've barely ever used the arpeggios. And I have used the MIDI outs, I've used the sync out, and I've used the CV outs. And obviously, USB. And again, the biggest issue that I've had with this is that my MIDI cable stopped working because these little like mini USB, whatever these are, tiny micro USB, whatever the crap, these are not very reliable, and it's unfortunate. In fact, the biggest thing about this is that these are full-size USB-B, I think is the name of those ports. Right there. Those ports are more reliable, at least I think they are. They feel like they're more reliable. So yeah, when looking at the Keystep, this is technically cheaper. And if you have instruments and gear that you interface with 5-pin MIDI DIN connections, then the outputs of an MPK Mini Play or a regular MPK Mini, if you look at these outputs of MPK Mini versus MPK Mini Play, you know, you basically just have the USB out that you're working with. So the question is that going to be okay? Because that means you're always going to have it plugged into a host controller, like an MPC or a DAW in your laptop or something like that. So you need to keep that in mind. Whereas with the Keystep, I can plug this guy into any hardware that I need. I can plug this directly into the Novation Peak and play like perfectly fine with it. So, you know, something to consider. And also the keys are slightly bigger. So if you look at full size keys, obviously those are going to be considerably larger than the Mini Play or the Keystep, but there is like a sweet spot to mini keys. And I know some people just don't like mini keys, period. And yeah, I feel you. These mini keys could definitely be a deal breaker for some people. From what I've used so far in the past week, I like them. I actually like these keys quite a bit. I don't know. I'm a fan of like different approaches. It's almost like the difference of picking up a 3/4 size guitar or a parlor guitar versus a full size guitar. You know, like different feels of the fretboard can make you kind of play different things just because your mind thinks differently. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this. I mean, I think it's a decent keyboard. It's a bit on the pricey side, but then you factor in the speaker and the MIDI set and the fact that it could be run on batteries, and so it's highly portable. And you go, well, you know, that's a pretty good option out there. If you're someone specifically in the market for something that you can throw in your backpack, it's battery powered, has a keyboard that feels decent even though it's small, and has a bunch of MIDI sounds so you could literally just plug in some headphones into, like earbuds, and be able to play, and then be able to throw that into an ecosystem of like your laptop or an MPC. Like, that's pretty cool. But personally, I would recommend this if you're getting more serious about music production, or a Keystep, or maybe a Novation launch key, possibly. I don't even know if that's the name of it. They all have these like names, these permutations of names that you can never keep track of. I just want to make music, man. That's the video. Thank you so much, Akai, for sending over the MPK Mini Play and being able to check it out early. I really appreciate that. And thank you guys for watching and hanging out. I really do appreciate all the support on the channel. It's been awesome to see. Thank you to our Patreon members as well. Obviously, we got more videos coming, so if you want to hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. That helps with the algorithm, helps share it to other people, and then the channel grows, which is great. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Deuces.